सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Let us read from the verse 7. ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूतः सनातनः मनश्शष्ठानीन्द्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षते शरीरं यदवाप्नोति यच्चाप्युत्क्रामतीश्वरः गृहीत्वैतानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धानि वाशयात् श्रोत्रं चक्षुस्पर्शनं च रसनं घ्राणमेव च अधिष्ठाय मनश्चायं विषयानुपसेवते उत्क्रामन्तं स्थितं वापि भुञ्जानं वा गुणान्वितम् विमूढानानुपश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति ज्ञानचक्षुषः यतन्तो योगिनश्चैनं पश्यन्त्यात्मन्यवस्थितम् यतन्तोऽप्यकृतात्मानः नैनं पश्यन्त्यचेतसः। So in this verses Lord Krishna described how God himself becomes a transmigrating soul because of ignorance. So what is the self is none other than Brahman, none other than God. But on account of ignorance, which brings about an identification with this body-mind complex, therefore there is this complex that I am an individual being. That creates in me a sense of individuality, a smallness, limitedness, insecurity, fear, whatever. All of this is created. All of this is a product of ignorance. So on account of that, he struggles in this life, continues in one life, one embodiment after the other, and this is how the transmigration goes on. Manasasthani, Lord Krishna said that this one who looks upon himself as an amsha, as a part of Lord, who looks upon as a little spark of consciousness, who looks upon himself as a helpless creature, as an insignificant being, is in fact Sanatana, is eternal, is limitless, is complete, is nothing other than myself. So by using the word Sanatana along with Amsha means a part, and Sanatana means eternal. The part cannot be eternal. So one of the two cannot be right. And therefore it is as though a part. Just in order to explain our sense of feeling smallness. So this is what Vedanta does. It explains our experiences rather than simply discarding that or telling me that you are limitless, because then how do I feel small? If I am limitless, then what's the reason why I feel a sense of smallness? If I am Ananda or the nature of happiness, why do I feel sad? If I am Sat or existence, why do I feel mortal? So those feelings are also to be explained, and that is, they are mithya. So mithya is that which appears to be there even though it's not there. There is no mortality as far as self is concerned, and still I feel mortal. And there is no smallness as far as self is concerned, and still I feel small. There is no unhappiness or sadness as far as self is concerned, and still I feel that. All of this is what we call the notions arising out of identification, taking the non-self to be myself, taking the body to be myself, and therefore body is mortal, I feel mortal. Taking the mind to be myself, mind is very small, little equipment, therefore I feel a sense of littleness. Taking intellect to be myself, there is ignorance in intellect, I look upon myself as ignorant. And I suffer from that and strive constantly to become free from that. And that is how I perform variety of actions. They bring about results, which for experience which I take another embodiment. The same struggle continues. He takes up this body. He brings all the baggage from the past, birth, into this body also. That means he brings the subtle body along with all his memories, means experience, not memories, but all the samskaras, the impressions. Whatever emotional growth or otherwise was there, all of that he brings with him. All his likes and dislikes, everything is brings with him himself here, and continues with that. Srotram, Chakshuhu, Sparshanam, Cha, Rasanam, Ghanameva Cha. He gains experience of various objects in this world with the help of the organs of perception and the mind. And it is he alone. So one who is a doer, one who is an enjoyer, one who is mortal, one who is, that is none other than Brahman. Vimudaha nanu pashyanti. Even so is so close at hand. Even Brahman is my very nature. That is one who is talking right now, one who is listening, one who is walking, one who is talking, one who is experiencing, one who is doing, one who is happy, unhappy. All of that is nothing but Brahman. So when I say that I am happy, that I am, that is Brahman, and happy, that's the nature of the mind. I am unhappy, again I am is Brahman, unhappy is the mind. I am tall, I am is Brahman, tall is the body. I am successful, I am is Brahman, successful is the ego. And thus, on account of identifying with the various aspects of my personality, all this variety of complexes are born in me. And each one of the complex shows lumping together of two things, Atma and Anatma, self and non-self, and both these are lumped together, Vimudhaha. So those who are ignorant and therefore variously deluded, they do not realize that this aviveka or non-discrimination or lumping is taking place, and therefore they take it to be one entity. Pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. On the other hand, those who have the viveka of the discrimination, they recognize that, wait a minute, when I say that I am a man, what man or tall or short, all of these are attributes of the body. And body is drishya. Body is something that is an object of knowledge, something that is object of awareness. And the I who is aware of the body is different from the body. I who is aware of the mind is different from the mind. And therefore, all this birth and death and doing and enjoying, all of these belongs to non-self. I am the one who is ever untouched by this. Even though doing is taking place, I do not do anything. Even though enjoying, experiencing is taking place, I am just a witness. I am uninvolved witness. In my presence all the activities take place, but I do not perform any activities. Pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. Those who have developed the eye of knowledge, they see this. For that, of course, it requires an effort. Yatanto yoginaschainam. The yogis who are yatantaha, striving, very diligent. That means those who have cultivated the right qualities of the mind. At least my mind must become relatively happy for me to recognize that I am happiness. My mind must enjoy relative purity in order for me to recognize that I am pure. My mind must enjoy essential freedom for me to recognize that I am free. So the absolute freedom that I am requires a mind that enjoys a relative freedom. A mind that is sad can never recognize that the self is, that I am happy. I, who is totally and emotionally a dependent entity, emotionally helpless being, cannot recognize myself to be a free person. And therefore, preparation is required. That's called preparedness. To acquire through a right way of living, intelligent way of living, based on the right values of life, a right understanding of life. All the values are based on this fundamental fact that I am what I am seeking. All of these the scriptures teach us what they call vairagya or dispassionate. All of that arises only from an understanding of this fact that what I am seeking is to be discovered from within myself and not without myself. That there are two kinds of things that I am seeking in my life. One is the requirements of this body, requirements of the matter, for which of course I am dependent upon the material world. But then there are other requirements, that's the spirit requirement of the spirit. This freedom is the requirement of the spirit. The happiness is also a requirement of the spirit. The sadness is the problem of spirit and not of the matter. It's not that the body is sad. Even mind, all of it, it's the self that is sad. So sadness is a problem that is centered on the spirit, and therefore it calls for a spiritual solution, not a material solution. Although today when I feel sad, I always go for a material solution. I go for movies. When I'm not feeling, I'm not in a good mood, well, I go for a slice of pizza, something like that. Which means today I'm seeking or I'm resorting to what we call material solutions for a problem that is centered on the spirit. So jnana chakshusha, the vivekinaha, those who have the discrimination, so they recognize the two kinds of problems are there. There are problems of life that are centered on matter. There are other problems that are centered on the spirit. The problems centered on matter require solution, material resources. The problems centered upon the spirit require, of course, the spiritual development. So yatantaha, those who are striving, those who are committed to a life of spiritual growth and inner growth. And what's the means of inner growth? A life lived on the values. A life that reflects the devotion. A life that reflects the acceptance and understanding of God. And life therefore based on that understanding, a life in which there is more and more of Ishvara or God and less of ego. That is called yoginaha. They are called the yogis, the diligent yogis, who are constantly striving to bring in God in their life with understanding of the reality that everything is God. And what I call the ego is really just a notion, it's a false entity. So this is how they gain that preparedness of the mind, and when they expose themselves to this teaching, then they understand. Yatantopi kritatmanaha. There are others who also strive. And they also listen to scriptures. They also do everything that other people are doing. And still they do not understand because the preparation is not there. So one teacher writes here, one commentator, that those in whose hearts anger and lust and these things are filled in, outwardly it may look all calm, but inwardly when all this stuff is there, so long this knowledge doesn't take place. And therefore, in Swamiji's language, whatever unconscious and all that stuff is there needs to be resolved, because it comes up again and again, it has to be resolved with the help of Vedanta. So that means, as Lord Krishna would say, kama, krodha, loha. Kama is this craving, krodha is anger, lobha is greed. So these are the things that actually are the obstacles. And I have to recognize them and resolve them, deal with them. Make my mind essentially free from those impurities. And they see. So that also is an effort that is required. Along with the effort of listening to scriptures and studying the scriptures and everything, this effort also is required, wherein I constantly strive for the purification of my mind. All this Lord Krishna said. He said that, look, who am I? I am of the nature of consciousness, awareness, light, intelligence. Na tad bhasayate surya, na shashanko, na pavakaha. Yad gatvana nivartante, tad dhama paramam. I am that dhama, I am that jyotihi, I am that very light. Knowing which there is nothing more to be known, nothing more to be done. It's I alone on account of ignorance becomes this jiva, becomes an individual, and then transmigrates. So what's the purpose of life, Swami? That's the purpose. What's the purpose? Is first of all to purify my mind, and secondly to know myself. And therefore, that same Brahman or the self is now further described in the 4 verses by Lord Krishna. So in the next 4 verses, Lord Krishna describes his vibhuti or glories. He says how I am everything. I pervade everything. I am the self of everything. And not only that, but all the vyavahara, all the transactions that take place in the world, any kind of an interaction or transaction that take place in the world are all because of me. Without me, there could be nothing. Without me, there will be no activity. I am the self of all, and it is because of me that all the activities are possible. And thus revealing his nature to be all-pervasive, to be the self of all. Aham Krishnasya jagatah prabhavah pralayasthatha aham. He says, I am the one that is the self of all. Aham sarvasya prabhavah mattas sarvam pravartate. I am the source of everything, origin of everything, cause of everything, and all activities are due to me. So wherever you see any activity, understand that that is the source of all that activity is prompted by Lord Krishna says, I, the self, or Brahma. And so in next 4 verses, Lord Krishna describes how he is the self of all, and how all the activities take place on account of himself. So let us read the 12th verse. Yadadityagatan tejah jagad bhasayate khilam yachandramasi yacchagnau tattejo vidhi mamakam yat adityagatam tejah. Adityagatam, that which is in the sun. Yat adityagatam tejah, the light that is in the sun. Jagat bhasayate akhilam. Yat tejah akhilam jagat bhasayate. That light in the sun that illumines the whole world. Yat chandramasi, and also the light which is in the moon. Yat chagnau, and again the light which is in the fire. So again and again we find the mention of these 3 luminaries, the sun and the moon and the fire. They stand for all the other luminaries. Sometimes also mention the stars, sometimes I mention the lightning. All of these. All these luminaries that illumine this whole world. Tat tejo vidhi mamakam. Here Arjuna, understand that is my light. I who is consciousness, I who is awareness, or I who is intelligence, it is my light of consciousness because of which the sun and the moon and the fire are able to illumine the whole world. The sun during the day, the moon during the night, and fire when sun and moon are not there. Or you can say that I am the one who manifests the sun and the moon and the fire, and I illumine the whole world. And interpreting that verse with reference to individual context, we said in the morning that sun is the presiding deity of the faculty of sight. The moon is the presiding deity of the faculty that is mind. And fire is the presiding deity of the faculty of speech. So Lord Krishna says that the eyes are able to illumine. So all of these also illumine the respective objects. The eyes and other organs of perception illumine the various objects. The eyes illumine what we call the form and color. The faculty of hearing illumines what we call the sound. The faculty of touch illumines the touch. The faculty of smell illumines all the smell. The faculty of taste illumines all the taste. Let's go illumination. Understand what is meant by illumination. We are talking about the light, not just this light, the light of the eyes, but even right now that you are able to hear these words. That hearing or listening is possible when the faculty of hearing illumines these words. It's called illuminating these words. When I eat something that I experience a taste, I can say that the faculty of taste illumines the taste. Thus my 5 organs of perception illumine the variety of objects of the world. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Tat Tejo Vidhimamakam. Lord Krishna says, understand, that is my light, that is my awareness. It is because of me that the eyes are able to illuminate the color and form. It is because of me the consciousness, the self. So that's how both ways. By saying that the light in the sun and the moon and the fire is my light, Lord says, I am the cosmic being. And also by interpreting these luminaries as the luminaries obtaining our body, Lord says, I am the self. Because who illumines the eyes? The self. Who illumines my faculty of perception? The self. Speech. Fire stands for the speech. Lord Krishna says, I illumine the faculty of speech. Yad vacha anabhiritam yena vaga bhyudyate. So that by which the speech is illumined. Then the faculty of speech, is able to produce the sound, is able to produce the words, is able to illuminate the words, is all due to me. And the other organs of action like hands, legs, all of these also are able to perform the respective functions is because of me. I am the source of all the energy. I am the source of all the knowledge. And Chandramas, the moon stands for the mind. Moon is presiding deity of the mind. That mind functions. Yena ahur manomatam. That because of which the mind is able to think. Lord Krishna says, is it because of me that the mind thinks? I am the light which enables the mind, which imparts consciousness to the mind, because of which mind is able to perform its functions. I am the consciousness that imparts light to all the organs of perception, because of which they can perceive the respective objects. I am that light that imparts also the vitality to all the organs of action, because of which they can perform their variety of functions. So you can meditate upon God in different ways. The reason why Lord Krishna describes his vibhutis, the glories, is for us to meditate upon him. In dhyanam, at the level of God as myself, I can meditate. As I said, with reference to activities taking place, when I am talking, when I am seeing, when I am hearing, everywhere, Pashyanti Jnana Chakshusha. Each one of these actions, each one of these functions is possible only when God is there. Eyes can see when the eyes are illuminated by the self, there is consciousness. The speech can talk or the words can be produced only when the self is there in the form of that provides the vitality. And thus, I am the self of all the luminaries at the cosmic level. I am also the self of all the luminaries at the individual level. Then continuing in the 13th verse. Gama Vishya Bhutani Dharayamyaham Ojasa Pushnami Chaushadhi Sarvaha Somo Bhutva Rasatmakaha Gam Avishyacha, and entering the earth. Bhutani dharayami ahamojasa. Aham dharayami, I sustain. Bhutani, the beings. Ojasa, through my power. Lord Krishna says, and entering the earth, I sustain all the beings through my power. See, earth is well known as the one that sustains or supports everybody. Earth. So that bears everything, supports everybody. If earth did not support us, then we would sink. And earth stands also for the whole universe. Everything in the universe, other planets are also there which support whatever it is in them. As best as we know, nothing else is there on any other planet. But anyway, who knows? So entering in this universe, I support the entire universe. The idea is that I am the self of Prithvi also. So Lord Krishna declared himself the self of all the luminaries like sun and moon and fire and the lightning and the stars. That means I am the one that illumines everything in the whole universe, and I am the one that sustains everything, that supports everything. So Gam go means Prithvi, Go means earth. The word go has many meanings, and one of the meanings is go means earth. And so here Shankaracharya says, what is it that provides the earth? The firmness, because of which the earth is able to sustain or support all the beings. And what is that sustains the earth itself? How come the earth which is so heavy doesn't fall down? How come the earth actually, where all the particles are held together, that it just doesn't get scattered away? So what is it that keeps all the particles of clay or the earth together and thus provides a firmness so that it can support all the beings? What is it that holds earth in its own position so the earth doesn't fall down or fly away? What is it that keeps the earth from disintegrating into its little particles? What is it? There is some force. Lord Krishna says, that is what I am. Well, perhaps Newton may call it some different kind of force. What is it that brings down the objects from higher level to the earth? When they fall, it's force of gravity. So that Lord Krishna says, all this force I am. So it is by my ojas, or by my power, that I sustain the entire universe. So yena dyauhu ugra prithvi dridha, says Vedas. So that because of which the earth is firm, and that because of which the heavens, heavens are mighty and heavens are shining. So heavens are mighty because of whom, the earth is firm because of whom. In short, whatever it is because of whom. But here, Lord Krishna declares himself to be almighty, sustaining the whole universe. We see the Hercules, so supporting the whole universe. These concepts are there. For example, we say that the Ananta, the Shesha, let's say that's a cobra with 1,000 heads, he's sustaining the whole universe. Different ways it is explained. How the whole earth or the whole universe is sustained. Symbolically. Idea is that there is someone or something that sustains this thing, something that supports it. We don't see it, of course. You say, Swami, all this, this is all old-fashioned stuff. You don't need to tell us this, that God supports all this. Where is God? It's all force of gravity that does it. No, whenever you talk of God, the youngsters have a lot of problems with that. There is some problem and they cannot accept God. What God? Where is He? It's all force of gravity that does it. So scientists believe that just because we can explain the world, therefore there is no need of God. They say that we don't need God. Because we can explain the world. We can explain all the whole universe by our laws of physics and by the mathematical equations. We can explain everything. So where is the need of God? But just because we can explain doesn't mean that God is not there. That you can explain shows there is God. And so how do you say that just because I can explain a certain phenomenon that there is no God? That the phenomenon is there, that it is explainable, that you have an intellect which can explain, and that the intellect has the capacity to explain, all of that comes from where? When we say that He is a light also, that illumines the mind, that mind also includes intellect and all the faculties that we have, as will be stated subsequently in the 15th verse. All of this shows that the God is. But anyway, here it is said, and all of this is nicely explained in the Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where Sage Yajnavalkya tells Gargi as to how this earth and the heavens and all of these are held in their position, by whose might. Yasya prashasane Gargi Dyava prasivyo vidhrutau tishthatah. So, Dyava prasivyo vidhrute surya chandramasau vidhrutau tishthatah. Yasya prashasane Gargi Dyava prasivyo vidhrute tishthatah. Hey Gargi, it is by whose might or whose mighty rule that the earth and the heavens are held in their positions. The sun and moon are also held in their positions. Even if we say that it is the law of gravity, it's like the gravitational force, or whatever force it is that holds them, but in that force, Lord Krishna says, I am that which holds everything together. So thus we find the whole universe, interconnected. Whole universe functioning as an organic whole, consisting of so many diverse components, millions and billions of galaxies and things like that, but all of them are functioning as one harmonious whole, one organic whole. Just as my body also consists of so many different limbs, each one of them is different. It is a different place, different name, different function, and millions and billions of these cells are there. All of these things are held together in one harmony. There is something which is what we call the self of the consciousness, how it holds everything together. Similarly also we find the whole universe is held together in one harmony. Lord Krishna says, that is my power, because of which I sustain the whole universe. And that the different elements of the universe have different capacities. That the earth is able to sustain everything. The water is able to wet everything. That the fire is able to burn everything. And that the air is able to dry everything. The space is able to accommodate everything. Even that capacity to all the elements, who gives them? So that because of whom the space is able to accommodate. The fire is able to burn. The water is able to wet. The earth is able to sustain. Lord Krishna says, that energy or that fundamental power I am. That's my glory. So that fundamental power by which I sustain the whole universe, and because of which everything is held in its own place, that power or Tejas I am. So thus again, he is describing how he is Sarvatma, he is the self of all, he is all pervasive. That's what he is describing here. Then also says, Pushnami cha aushadhi sarvaha somo bhutva rasatmakaha. Pushnami cha sarvaha aushadhi, and I nourish all the plants. Lord Krishna says, I nourish all the plants. Soma bhutva, by becoming soma. Rasatmakaha, which is the nature of the sap. Soma is a principle. Very often Soma is identified with moon. So Soma is the principle of what we call rasa or the sap. The oshadis, or what we call the vegetables and plants, the whole kingdom, vegetable and plant kingdom, is that which is sustained by the sap. And Lord Krishna says the sap which is there, the very essence which is there in the plants and vegetables, that sap or essence is nothing but myself. Where did it come from? It came from the Soma, from the moon. So either Soma can be translated as moon, because in the scriptures often the moon is looked upon as a principle of water. So moon is looked upon as the principle of rasa or the sap. It is a repository of all the rasa or the sap. And Soma also means the repository of all the rasa. So Soma bhut rasatmaka. Soma, which of the nature of sap, as Soma, I in fact nourish all the plants and vegetables. I become the sap, and as the very sap or the very essence, I become the plants, I become the vegetables. That means I am the self of all the plant and vegetable kingdom also. I am the self of the earth and all those which sustain. I am the self of the sun and the moon and all the luminaries. And what else are we? In short, that all the plants and vegetables that we have is nothing but manifestation of Lord. So Lord says, I first become Soma. I manifest myself as Soma or the sap, and through that I nourish all the plants and vegetables, and thus I manifest as all the plants and vegetables. And then further, in the 14th verse we are told, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamashritaha Pranapana Samayuktaha Pachamyannam Chaturvidham Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva, taking the form of Vaishvanara. Vaishvanara is this Udaragnahi or Jatharagnahi. The fire that is in Jathara or the stomach is called Vaishvanara. Ayamagnir Vaishvanara. There is fire in the stomach, that is what we call the digestive fire. And in the scriptures, often sometimes that fire is referred to as Vaishvanara. So I am the Vaishvanara, I am the digestive fire. So as the digestive fire, as a sap, I nourish all the plants and vegetables and become the plant and vegetable kingdom. As the digestive fire, residing Praninam Dehamashritaha, I am residing in the stomach or in the bodies of all the living beings, not only human beings but every living being, because we require fire in order to digest the food. All along is the fire that cooks the food. So Lord keeps on cooking the food for us. First of all, fire as the sun, He cooks the food in the fields. That's very important. And then the fire in the stove, he cooks the food in the kitchen. And still cooking is not complete. And then when we eat the food, as a fire in our stomach, he completes the cooking process. So not only is the fire in the jatara or the stomach, he is a fire everywhere. But particularly Lord Krishna says, as a fire which is a digestive fire, I am the one that is in the bodies of all the living beings. And what do? Prana, Pana, Samayukta. In association, Prana and Apana. Prana is outgoing breath, Apana is the incoming breath. So you can imagine, our lungs are like the bellows, and constantly somebody is all the time pressing this bellows. And that's why this breathing process takes place. And thus the prana, apana. See, when we were young, in our towns, these ironsmiths used to come. So ironsmiths, they were like the vendors. So they would go into the streets and come to near our home with their little furnace and the bellows. And so then some work is to be done. For example, there are some iron things that you want to get shaped and sharpened and whatever it is. So they will do that, hammering and everything else. Right there's a furnace and there's a bellows. So fire always requires air, of course, in order to illumine, and also in order to do its function, air is always required. So you require the bellows. So God has provided that bellows here in the form of these lungs. And that's the reason why the air keeps on coming and going. Because there is fire in the stomach, that fire requires that air. And then alone the fire needs that oxygen. So the oxygen goes in, and that's how the fire remains illumined. And that is how he is able to cook the food or digest the food. Prana, Apana, Samayukta. In association, prana and apana, pachami annam, Lord Krishna says, it is I who digests the food. What kind of food? Chaturvidham. 4 kinds of food. 4 kinds of food it's interesting how the food is categorized as 4 kinds. Not in terms of types of food, like vegetarian, this, that. It's not that way. But 4 kinds of food is the kinds are determined with reference to the way we eat food. So one is called bhojyam. And so the food that we eat, masticate. That's one way of eating food. Bhaksham, other thing is what we swallow without masticating. Sometimes people swallow even when they should masticate. That's a different matter. When you go to South India and when they, rice is something that they love. Of course they do masticating outside, in the plate itself. They make sure that the rice is masticated right there. And they make nice little, but that process is faster. Doing it in the mouth, it takes a little longer time. So here on the other hand, it's all done quickly, and they turn all them into little rice balls. And then the speed with which they go, straight away, goes inside. You need not do anything with it, because it's all done outside. And I guess to help, they add some buttermilk and things like that. But then the food that we masticate, the food that we swallow. It's another kind of food that we swallow. Choshyam, thing that we suck, like mangoes, etc. And lekhyam, that which we lick, like honey. So we eat in these 4 ways we eat. Certain things we lick, certain things we squeeze or suck, certain things we swallow, and certain things we masticate. This is the 4 kinds of food. And that's how all the creatures eat. Dogs may be perhaps sucking most of the things very often, The cows have their own way of eating, but then all the creatures eat. Well, Lord Krishna says that I am the digestive fire in the stomach of all the living beings, not only human beings. So all the creatures eat food in their own way, but then all of them perhaps can be classified in these 4 ways. And thus this 4 food that is eaten by different creatures, I digest them as a very digestive fire residing in the stomach in association with the prana and the apana. So the question, here it is said, if this is what we keep in mind, so that's how the world consists of 2 things, the bhokta and the bhojya, the experiencer and experienced, the eater and the eater. So, what is the whole eaten world? What we eat is the food. Lord Krishna said, as Soma, I am the one that becomes your food. As Soma, which is of the nature of the sap, he becomes all the plants and vegetables, and that's how he becomes our food. And as Jatharagni, the digestive fire, he is the one that digests the food. He eats the food. So eater also is himself, and then the food also is himself. Both ways. That is how one, here Shankaracharya explains, that while eating the food, if one keeps this in mind, or meditates upon this fact, that the eater or the bhokta, the eater of the food also is as prana. So Lord is a prana, or Lord is Agni rather. So Lord as the fire is the eater of the food. So Agni, and Lord as Soma is the eaten food. So eater and eaten, both of them are Lord alone. As prana or as Agni, he is the eater, and as Soma, he is the eaten. So that way, what is the vyavahara that is going on at the time of eating? Nothing but the Lord, in fact, interacting with himself, because the eater also is himself, eaten also is him. If we do this, if this is how, that's the reason why we chant this verse before our meals. In order to, these verses, particularly these verses, this Pushnami Aushadhi Chaushadhi Sarvaha, that one, and Vaishvanara Bhutva, because that says that the food also is God, and the one that eats the food and digests is also is God. And if that is kept in mind, then this becomes like a meditation. So if one meditates upon these truths, then Annalo Shalepo na bhavati, Shankaracharya says, then all the blemishes or defects that may be there in the food, they do not affect us. Otherwise, when we eat the food, all the blemishes or the defects that come in the food also are also consumed. That's the reason why there are people who never eat elsewhere. They always eat food in their home, they never eat outside. And there are yet others who do not eat food cooked by anybody else, they insist upon cooking food themselves. That is because these various doshas, the various blemishes are possible in the food. So Vedanta does talk about the food, but there are other teachers who have in fact given greater emphasis on the food, because it is said in the Vedas, Ahara Sattva, Ahara Shuddha, Sattva Shuddhi. If the Ahara is Shuddha, if the food is pure, then the mind is pure. And Sattva Shuddha, Dhruvam Smritihi, Dhruva Smritihi. If the mind is pure, then knowledge also is gained. There is purity of knowledge. Ahara. So very often the question is asked, Swamiji, does food have anything to do with our mind? Very much. Food has a lot to do with the mind. That's what the Upanishad also explains. In the Chandogya Upanishad, the famous dialogue between Sage Uddalaka and his disciple son Shvetaketu, where Sage Uddalaka demonstrates. Svannamayami Somya Manaha. Hey Somya, addressing his disciple and the son, says, hey Shvetaketu, the mind is that which is made of food. So that is explained. That the food that we eat, the grossest part of the food, it gets rejected. The middle part of the food that we eat, solid food that we eat, that goes into formation of flesh, etc. in our body. And the subtlest part of the food goes into nourishment of the mind. And that is why food is very important, because that is what it has a strong influence upon the mind. And that's how the food is also classified as sattvic food, rajas food and tamas food. So that's why there's a sattvic food is what one should eat. And 17th chapter describes what is sattvic food, what is rajas food, what is tamas food. So how about meat? Tamas. How about onion and garlic? Also rajas and tamas. All food that are strong smelling and stinking, all of these are foods that have a similar effect upon the mind. So that's an important reason why we discourage people from eating meat. It's not, apart from scientific reasons, apart from reasons of the health, which of course are determined now that vegetarian food is healthier, but even from the spiritual reasons also, it is desirable that our food is as pure as possible and that it is of this nature. So one of the defects or blemishes that can be in the food is what we call jati dosha, the very kind of food. which can pollute our mind. Jati dosha. Sometimes whether you like it or not, sometimes even though you find onion and garlic in your food, sometimes. Although you can avoid it and you do avoid, but all there can be other things which we do not know what they are. So many things we don't even know. Swami, how about mushroom? I don't know. But then perhaps the Smriti says mushroom also you should not eat. Whatever. But anyway, and in certain season you should not eat certain things and whatnot. I mean, the idea is in order to, because the food is considered to have an important effect upon our personality. But this is called jati dosha. The very kind of food also can cause this blemish. Other is what we call ashraya dosha. Who cooks food? Whether that person is pure or not. That's the reason why in the olden days a lot of precaution was taken. Where are those who are hanging up there someplace, nobody can touch them. Children cannot touch them, they can't reach there. Even their mother also could not reach. So they always used to have a stick with which she used to take out, It's amazing, and that's a certain technique. How to hang these clothes with a stick. You must fold them in a certain way, and then otherwise, I tried several times, it doesn't work. But they would do it very well. You just fold it in some way, hold it in the stick, and like that, so that the clothes are hanging there, nobody touches them, and after the bath, she would put on those clothes, and then cook food, and we had no entrance. Even children did not have entrance to the kitchen. And unless you have taken bath, etc., then you can come to this line, not beyond that line. So this untouchability is not only outside, it was inside also. Just to maintain a certain sanctity about that. And also, so all of that is important, whether the vessels are clean, whether that purity is maintained or not, what kind of vessels are there, aluminum, what is what, all of that was important. And then whether the person who cooks the food also has that purity or not, and what is the state of mind, that also is important. Person is sad and is angry and things like that, all of that stuff goes into food, so it is said. All ashraya dosha, so that is also important. All of that we don't know, all of that comes to us. When we eat in restaurants, who knows? Or when we eat in other places also, when we get food from outside, very often, in India also there are services, there are people who supply food, the tiffin box, tiffin carriers, and many people get. And so at one point I was also getting in the earlier days. So one of the Swamijis told me, he says, oh, you are doing this? You should not do that. He says, when the food in the tiffin carrier travels from that place to other, how many people see that? And that is also important. Who is the person who sees that? What kind of shadows fall on that? What kind of places it touches? Who touches that? The idea is that how sacred the thing is looked upon, that's what I am saying. Whether we can do it or not is a different matter. That's the reason why they say some people just do not eat elsewhere. And some people even go to the extent of cooking food only by themselves. Because ashraya dosha. And nimitta dosha. Third is, what are the resources? What is the kind of money from which the food was bought? It was white or black or what it is, all of that. So that is also important, whether the money was earned by honest means or otherwise, because that also, so money with which the food is bought, that also has an influence of food. The person who cooks also has an influence, and the state of mind which prevails also has an influence, the kind of vessels and sanctity also has an influence, what kind of food it is, all of these have an influence, and therefore the food that we eat may look very good. Outright Swami Vivekananda used to say, he was describing after his first tour of United States when he came to India, and contrasting the concept of cleanliness that obtained in the East and West. So what kind of concept of cleanliness did Western people have and Eastern people have? He says, well, when you go to West, when you go to United States or a Western country, you are made to sit on a dining table, and there is a tablecloth on dining table that is spotlessly white and starched, and there is a plate which also is very clean, and there is a napkin which is also starched and clean, and then the food is brought by a bearer who's starched clothes and with and bring it in a plate, it's all very clean. Everything is wonderful. That fellow is well dressed and everything. And so this is the idea of the cleanliness. If you go inside the kitchen, it's a different matter. If you see him baking his bread, then he may be what do you call it, the dough. So he may be making the dough, he may be with his own feet, he may be kneading it. How does he knead the dough? In those days, when they may not have the machines. And the perspiration, everything is all falling in there. That's okay. That doesn't matter. What matters is cleanliness outside. So presentation is just wonderful. What is inside is a different matter. Come to India, and this woman makes sure that she has taken a bath and the clothes are also just washed and everything is, as I just described. A lot of precaution taken as far as the inner cleanliness is concerned, but outwardly, those clothes may have, though washed, but it may have starts. The place where you eat also may not be clean. And the way and everything outwardly, there is no concern of cleanliness here in India, other than the East. Inward cleanliness, yes. Outward cleanliness, totally lacking. Here, outward cleanliness, yes. Inward cleanliness may be a different matter. And so, that is how all of this may be there. So, when you eat food, you do not know what is inside there. It may come, the way it comes to you may be very presentable. So, all of these things are involved. And particularly for sannyasis or sadhus, they don't cook food. They always go out and beg bhiksha. Who knows, Although that's the reason why there used to be a rule as to what are the kind of houses you go for your bhiksha. You just don't go to anywhere. Don't go any place. You choose. But anyway, all this fuss about food, I'm just saying that what is meant here is that if you keep in mind the fact that the one that eats the food is also Lord in the form of the digestive fire, and the food itself also is a Lord in the form of this sap and the vegetables and plants, then all these defects which may be there, one remains free from all of them. That is thinking about the God in this way. So how do you think about God all the time in different ways? That's the reason why in the Bhagavad Gītā, Lord Krishna describes His glories in different ways. So how we can dwell upon it? Just to think about one thing for the whole day is not possible. And therefore a variety of things are presented where His glories are very, very evident. And then in the 15th verse, Lord Krishna says how He is the self of all and how because of Him all the activities take place. Sarvasya chaham hrudi sannivishtaha Sarvasya chaham hrudi sannivishtaha Matta smritir jnanam apohanancha Matta smritir jnanam apohanancha Vedaischa sarvairahameva vedyah Vedaischa sarvairahameva vedyah Vedanta krit veda videva chaham Vedanta krit veda videva chaham Sarvasya cha aham hrudi sannivishtaha cha, and I am seated in the hearts of all. Meaning that I am seated in the hearts of all. I am the self of all the creatures. I am the self of all the... So Lord Krishna said, I am the self of all the luminaries, self of the earth, self of all the plants. He said, now it says, I am the self of all the living beings also, seated in their heart and manifesting in their heart as a very I as a very self. Mattaha smritihi jnanam apohanam cha. So up to this point, the reason why we chant this verse, Brahma Param Brahma Havihi, also has these verses in mind. That verse comes from the 4th chapter. Brahma Param Brahma Havihi Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam Brahma Yuvatena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. So that describes the vision of a wise person as to how in the vision of the wise person everything is Brahman, everything is God. Because God alone is manifest as everything. So with reference to what we call a yajna or a sacrificial, a sacrificial ceremony, how the wise person sees the manifestation of God in everything. So as we know, when the yajna takes place, of course there is a fire altar in which the fire is lighted, and we invoke the gods in that and make the offerings. Offering of some material. It may be like ghee, it may be like whatever, so curd, milk and other materials. An offering usually is done with a spoon. So if there is ghee or the clarified butter in one of these containers, then you take the spoon, that's called chamas, a wooden spoon with which you make the offering. So we recite a mantra and make the offering, swaha. So in this setup, that verse of the 4th chapter says, Brahmarpanam, that chamas or a spoon with which you are making an offering is nothing but Brahman, is nothing but manifestation of God. Brahma havihi, that havish or the material that is offered also is Brahma. Brahmagnav, the agni of the fire into which the offering is made also is Brahman, is also God. Brahmana hutam, the one who performs this ritual also is Brahman. Sarvasya chaham hrudi sannivishtaha. So this Lord Krishna described. So imagine that when we are eating food, this can be the very bhavana or the spirit that I am performing a yajna. So what is in yajna is that there is fire in which we take the material in a spoon and then offer. Here also there is fire in our stomach, and here also in the plate the food is there. So that is called the havish. And arpanam, so normally with a spoon I offer that, here with a spoon of my fingers. So I take one bite and I offer that food which goes into the fire, it is offered the fire. So thus this yajna is taking place even when we are eating food. And all the elements involved in the performance of yajna are also nothing but God. Because as we just read in these verses, the food which is the plate, which is havihi, is also Brahma, because he alone became that food. And the fire to which the food is offered, or havi is offered also is him, because he is Vaishvanara. And when we eat that food, that itself gets converted into energy, and from that our body is made. So even the fingers with which the food is eaten also is nothing but manifestation of him. And the one who does all this, the one who is seated in my heart, my very self, who does all of this whole ceremony of eating food or performing the ritual, sarvasya chaham hrudi sannivishtaha. I am the one that is seated in the hearts of all, who does everything. So the one who performs this ceremony also is him. So Brahmarpanam, Arpanam is Brahman, Brahmagnahu, the Agni also is Brahma, Brahma havihi, the havish food also is Brahma, Brahmanahutam, the one seated in the heart, performing all of this also is Brahma. Brahma ivatena gantavyam, Brahma karma samadhina. So one who keeps this in mind, Brahma karma samadhi, one whose mind is absorbed in the appreciation of Brahman that takes place during this karma. So Brahman that is involved in performing this karma of the food or eating, so one whose mind is absorbed in that, Brahma ivatena gantavyam, he also reaches Brahma. And so these verses also beautifully explain how every aspect that is involved in eating food is nothing but Brahman or God. And so that we can keep that in mind while eating food, so therefore it forms also a prayer. At the same time, it becomes also an aid in meditation while eating the food. Then all this dosha which is there in the anna, one remains free from that all. And it no more just remains a simple act of eating food, but it becomes performing a ritual, performing a yaga, performing a worshipful action. Sarvasya chaham hrudi sannivishtaha mattaha, Lord Krishna says, from me alone, smrutihi, the memory, jnanam, the knowledge, apohanam, also the loss. So that I can remember is also because of grace of God. That I can understand or know also because of grace of God. And that I forget also is because of God. When punya karma is there, when my virtuous actions fructify, then there is memory, remembrance and knowledge. When papa karma or the vicious actions fructify, then there is forgetfulness. I can't think of, can't remember. So Lord Krishna says, according to virtue and the wise, I am the one that gives them the knowledge, the memory and the forgetfulness. Or somebody explains that the three states of waking, dream and deep sleep state. Apohanam, forgetting everything, stands for the deep sleep state. Jnanam, the knowledge, is the waking state. Smriti, memory, that's the dream state, because in the dream there is no new knowledge, from the memory alone the dream takes place. So Smriti stands for the dream. Jnanam stands for the waking. And Apohanam, forgetting everything, stands for the deep sleep state. Lord Krishna says, all that also is because of me. Vedaisya sarvaihi ahameva vedyah. And again, ahameva, it's I alone who is to be known object, to be known through all the Vedas. Sarvaihi Vedaihi, through all the Vedas, ahameva vedyah. I am the subject matter of all the Vedas. All the Vedas do nothing but expound me. All the Vedas nothing but declare, the subject matter of the Vedas is I. So I form the very subject matter of all the Vedas. But Lord, in the Vedas we find so many devatas being described. In the Upanishad you are the subject matter, all right. But in the Karma Kanda we find so many devatas, Agni and Indra and so forth. So yes, Indram Mitram Varunam Agnimahuhu. There is a very famous verse in the Rigveda. Atho Devyasya Suparno Garutman Ekam Sad Vipra Bahudha Vadanti Agnim Yamam Matarishwana Manamahuhu. This, some of you may have heard this. Ekam Sad Vipraha Bahudha Vadanti. Ekam Sat, Sat is one, God is one. Vipraha Bahudha Vadanti. The learned people talk about him in many ways, with many names. He is called Indra, he is called Mitra, he is called Varuna, he is called Agni, he is called Suparnaha, Garutman, meaning the eagle, Garuda. He is sometimes called Yama, Matarishwa. All of these are the names, different names of the same Lord. That is, even in the Karma Kanda portion also, when so many devatas are mentioned, all of them are nothing but the manifestation of the same Lord. I say, Lord Krishna says, I am the self of all the gods who are worshipped. And therefore, I am the only subject matter of all the scriptures. Not only Vedas, all the scriptures of the world. Not only all the scriptures, all the books of knowledge. So where is God in physics? Physicists are declaring, there is no God. But then, whatever word they use, they can use the word energy, whatever it is that they want to use for what they call truth, a unified field, whatever it is that they use. But even when a scientist, whether a physicist or a chemist or whoever it is, whenever he is searching for something, whenever he is investigating, what he wants to investigate is that which can explain everything. Ultimately, everybody wants to find that law, that equation, or that molecule, or that something by which the whole universe can be explained. In short, every scientist also is searching for the truth. And that search can be over only when this truth is known this way. But anyway, whatever the science also declares something but the glories of the Lord. So astronomy declares the glories of the Lord, and the physics also declares the glories of the Lord, and the biology, every science declares nothing but the glories of the same Lord. Same principle. And therefore, every scripture, every book of knowledge, everything, and only I am the subject matter. Because I alone am, there is nothing other than me. Vedaihi sarvaihi ahameva vedyah. Hey Arjuna, I am the one that is to be known through all the Vedas. Not only that, Vedanta Krut, Veda Videva Chaham. Vedanta Krut and Vedavid. I am the Vedanta Krut. Vedanta Sampradaya Krit. Either Vedanta Krit means the one who is the revealer of the Vedanta, or Vedanta Sampradaya Krit means the one who is the teacher of Vedanta. Sampradaya means the teaching, the tradition. I am the Vedanta Sampradaya Krit as the teacher. I alone manifest and I impart the knowledge of the Vedas. Veda Videva Chaham, and the knower of the Veda also I am. See, this is a very interesting thing. Lord Krishna says, I am the subject matter of all the Vedas. The teacher who unfolds the Vedas also I am. And the disciple who knows the Veda also that I am. So as teacher, Vedanta Krit, I am the one that imparts the knowledge of the Vedanta. But knowledge is imparted of whom? I am the one that is subject matter of all the Veda and Vedanta, and therefore my knowledge is imparted by me to me. Because Vedavid, the one who is the knower, the student who knows the Veda, that also I am. Declaring therefore that I am the self of all. It is because of me that all the activities take place. And without me, there would be nothing. Whatever it is, nothing but myself. So in these 4 beautiful verses, Lord Krishna here declared, revealed his glories, saying how we can meditate upon him, how we can see him, how he is everything, how he is the self of all, how because of him all activities are possible, and how therefore he is all pervasive. So this is what we call Tat Pada. In the Mahavakya, Tattvamasi. Tat Pada, Tat stands for Ishvara. So these 4 verses describe Ishvara. Tvam is the Jiva. The earlier 6 verses, Mamayavamsho, Jiva Loke, all of those verses describe the Tvam or the Jiva. These 4 verses describe Tat or Ishvara, and the subsequent verses now will describe the oneness or identity between the Jiva and Ishvara. Thus we find that in such a short chapter, Lord Krishna very beautifully unfolds this Mahavakya Tattvamasi. We will see that tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Vadarayanam Sutrabhasya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvara Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.